All right, so before I start, I would like to inform you that I have uploaded the course materials and the video, the course material and the video to help you understand, about the materials. Okay, so I hope that you can watch the video, to understand about the course material. And instead, if you have any questions, you can WhatsApp me. You can contact me through WhatsApp, and I would do my best to help you answer the questions. Yeah. So, for example, in week 4, we learn about the demand theory. So there are several things that we need to consider before we draw a demand curve. The first one is the budget line, and then we have the indifference curve, and then we combine the budget line and indifference curve to make the demand curve. Okay, do you understand from this point, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes.
All right, so the next one, in week 5, we learn about the production theory. So remember I mentioned before about the quantity and total production and marginal production and average productions. And then if we draw each line in a graph, it should looks like this. And then we have also a diminishing marginal returns. So I have uploaded several PowerPoints to help you understand about the Islamic production theory. So first, we need to understand, about the production theory in conventional perspective, and then we gonna look at the Islamic perspective. Okay. All right. All right. So the next one is we're gonna learn about the Islamic cost theory. Islamic cost theory. And we didn't cover Islamic cost theory, Mbak Mazaya. So what I will do, I will try to explain, Islamic cost theory, and then we have two videos here, the short run cost and the long run cost. So by understanding the course materials and by watching these these 4 videos, I hope that we can understand about the Islamic cost of theory. Okay, is it clear, Mbak Mazaya?
It's clear, sir.
Okay, last one, we are going to learn about the supply theory. So what I will do tomorrow, I will try to make a video to help you understand about the supply theory. So hopefully by watching the video that I will make, you can understand about the supply. So this is only the basic supply theory, and then we're going to discuss it further after the midterm. Okay. Is it clear, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's learn about the cost theory. Okay. Okay. So this is what we are going to discuss. The first one is we going to learn about cost analysis. Then we we will learn about how we can minimize cost for production, yeah, and how we can achieve production maximization without cost change. So we're gonna learn about these two things, yeah, below. Actually, is the concept of efficiency. So what does it mean, efficiency? Efficiency is a way, a strategy to minimize cost for having the same level of production, or we can maximize the production by reducing or making the cost constant. Yeah, so without changing our costs. Yeah. So let's us first learn about the what is cost. Yeah. So cost is the value of all factors of production used to produce output. So this is the value of all factors of production that are used for producing some outputs. Do you remember factors of production, Mbak Mazaya? Do you remember factors of production? So factors of production, yeah. First one, we have land, remember? Then worker, yeah. And then we have capital, yeah. And then we have technology. Technology can be a machine, can be equipments to produce the output. Do you remember about this, Pak Mazaya? So when we speak about the factors of production, yeah, when we speak about the factors of productions, yeah, usually it comes in land, worker, capital, and technology. So for the land, what is the cost of the land? The cost of the land is rent. For example, you want to open a bakso restaurant, okay? So you need the place, right, to open this bakso restaurant, and the place of the cost of using this place is what we call rent. Yeah. So the rent could be monthly rent, yearly rent, and etc. Okay. All right. Do you understand from this point, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes.
Okay. So the second factor of production is worker. Okay. Worker. So what does the worker cost? The cost of worker is salary. Okay. So the salary is the cost that you need to have, yeah, in order to utilize worker. So we pay their salary. This is what we call the cost of worker. All right. The next one is the capital. Yeah, the capital. Yeah, what is the cost of capital? The cost of capital in Islamic economics is the profit and loss sharing. In conventional economics, the cost of capital is the interest rate. Yeah, so the interest rate is the cost of capital in conventional economics, while in Islamic economics, the cost of capital is the profit and loss sharing, the percentage of how much you're gonna share your profit and loss. The last one, the technology that we have. What is the cost of technology? It is their price. Yeah. So for example, you want to have a bakso restaurant. Yeah. So the technology is all the equipments to make bakso. Yeah. So what is the cost of getting this equipment is the price. Okay. All right. So from here, is there any question, Mbak Mazaya?
No.
All right. So shall we continue? Okay, we can continue, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what does cost mean? Yeah, according to MenQ, the cost, yeah, the cost is something that we sacrifice to get something. Yeah, so for example, if I want to have a laptop, then I need to sacrifice my money to buy a laptop, right? If I want to buy a car, yeah, I need to sacrifice my money to buy a car. Yeah, so the cost is something that we sacrifice in order to get something else. Yeah, so the cost of each output here, yeah, the cost of each output depends on, first, the input price. Yeah, what does input here means? Input here means, for example, input here means the price of raw material. Yeah, for example, if we are making bakso restaurant, yeah, what is the input? Flour, yeah, meat, yeah, sauce, yeah, sauce, and etc. So this is the input. So our output, the cost of output, depends on the price of the raw materials, the price of the inputs, and etc. Okay, and also the cost of producing an output depends on the efficiency. Okay, so if we are a big company, if we are an efficient company, yeah, we can produce in a very low cost. But if we are not a good company, we are a bad company, maybe we are a startup company, maybe we cannot reach efficiency yet, so the cost of producing an output could be high. Okay, so the efficiency here matters in producing output. So if we want to have a low cost of producing output, we need to increase our efficiency. Okay, is it understand? Is it understood, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes, I understood.
All right, thank you. So let's us move to the next slide. So these are the classification of costs. Okay, so costs can be divided into internal costs and external costs. This is based on their responsibilities. Yeah. What does it mean, internal cost? Internal costs mean costs incurred in the context of company operations. So if we have some things related to the operational of the company, to the activity of the company, this is what we call the internal cost. Yeah, the labor, yeah, this is related to internal cost. What about the external cost? The external cost is cost that must be borne by the company in connection with the impact or consequences of the company's operations. Yeah. So, for example, waste, the cost of waste, getting rid of the waste. You know, this is something that will give the impact or the consequences to the environment, right? If you have waste in your production activities, you need to get rid of it. And getting rid of this waste, yeah, getting rid this waste is costly. You need to pay some money, yeah, to get rid of your waste. So this is what we can mean by the external cost. So the external cost is a cost that must be borne by the company, yeah, in connection with the impact or consequences of the company's operations. Yeah, for example, for getting rid of the waste, yeah. So the company need to pay some external cost. All right. Okay, do you understand this, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes, understood.
Okay. Okay, in terms of the period, yeah, in the short term, for example, yeah, in the short term, yeah, we have what we call the fixed cost and we have what we call a variable cost. Yeah. So what is the fixed cost? So the fixed cost is the cost that incurred by the company regardless of whether the company is producing goods or not. Okay. For example, what is I will give you an example of the fixed cost is rent. Yeah, rent. So rent is usually paid in an annual basis. Yeah, for 1 month, for 1 year. Yeah, or 2 years. Yeah. So it is a fixed cost because whether you are producing or you are not producing, you will still have to pay the rent, right, on the annual basis. So the fixed cost here is something that we need to pay, yeah, whether our company is producing or not, right? So this is what we call fixed cost. The opposite of the fixed cost is the variable cost. So what does it mean? Variable cost is the cost incurred by the company. Yeah. Wait, I will. Okay. So what does it mean? Variable cost is the opposite of the fixed cost. So it is the cost that borne by the company. It is cost incurred by the company and it is changing by the change of production, by the change of production, by the change of production. So what does it mean? Variable cost. Variable cost is the opposite of the fixed cost. Yeah, it is the cost incurred by the company and it is changing. Yeah, it is changing by the change of the production. For example, the input, the cost of getting input. Yeah, the cost of getting input is variable cost. Yeah. For example, the cost of producing 10 bakso would be different than the cost of producing 1,000 bakso. Why? Because we have a different input. Yeah. If you want to produce 1,000 bakso, then you need a lot of input and it would cost you more. But if you only produce 10 bakso, you are not going to need so that many input. Yeah, so the input will be very low, so that the cost will be very low. All right, so the example of fixed cost, yeah, the example of fixed cost is rent. Yeah, because we need to pay the rent whether we produce or not produce, while the example of variable cost is the cost of getting input, the cost of getting the raw materials. All right, so the cost of getting inputs, the cost of getting raw materials, yeah, is what we call a variable cost. Okay. All right, so the factor of capital use is of great concern because there are several sources of capital used by producer, while the character of the cost of capital depends on the source of capital use. So when we want to have a business, Mbak Mazaya, yeah, we can have a lot of alternative about the capital used to open the business. We can have our money, yeah, from our pocket as the capital for the business, or we can borrow the bank. Yeah, by borrowing the bank, we can open the business. Yeah, so this is another sources of capital. Yeah. And here it says that the cost of capital depends on the source of capital use. So if you are using money, your own money, your own capital to build a business, then this is the cost of the business. But if you are borrowing the money from the bank, you will have a cost of interest that you need to pay for the bank. Usually it's about 7%, it's about 10%, then the money that you take. Okay, Mbak Mazaya, can you understand this?
Yes, I can.
All right, so the component of cost could be classified into three. We have a fixed cost. This is the cost that will not change whether you produce or not. The second component of cost is the variable cost. This is the cost that are changing. And it will follow our production. So if we have a higher production, we're going to have a higher variable cost. If we have less production, we're going to have a less variable cost. Okay, so this is the change, the costs that are changing. Fixed costs, the costs that are fixed, it is not changing. And if we add these two up, fixed costs plus variable cost, we are going to have total cost. So total cost is the summation of fixed cost with variable cost. Okay. Do we understand here, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, to understand these curves, these graphs, so we will have to watch this video. So I have uploaded 4 videos, to help us understand about the short run cost and the long run cost. So let's watch the video, okay?
Hey, good Econ students. This is Mr. Clifford. Welcome to ACDC Econ. Right now, I'm going to talk about cost curves. No one gets excited about them. If there's one complaint about learning microeconomics, it's cost curves. I mean, no one gets excited about cost curves. They might not be exciting, but cost curves are super essential. Now, someday you might own a business, and it's important to understand the cost of production. Calculating your costs is going to help you figure out your profit, but it also helps you figure out how many units to produce. And you're going to be doing these calculations for costs and drawing the cost curves a whole lot in microeconomics. So although it seems kind of bland, it's time to get excited about costs. So let's go over the different types of costs. Every company has 2 different types of costs: fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs are the costs that don't change with the amount produced. Like if you're a pizza company, the oven, right? You only have one, it's a fixed resource. It doesn't matter how many pizzas produced, you still have to pay for the oven. Another example might be the manager's salary, right? You still need a manager, whether you produce 1 unit or 1,000 units. So the manager's salary is a fixed cost. So variable costs do change with the amount produced. So if you produce more output, you're going to need more resources. So raw materials, labor, electricity are all examples of variable resources, and that's variable costs. If there's only 2 types of costs, fixed and variable, then total cost must be fixed plus variable costs. And there's also marginal cost. Marginal cost is the additional cost of producing 1 more output. If you're a pizza restaurant, it's the cost of producing 1 additional pizza. It's the change in total cost divided by the change in output. So now you understand the total cost. There's total fixed cost, total variable cost, total cost, and marginal cost. Now let's see if you can calculate them on your own. Right here, I have the cost for a given.
Okay, so here he said that we have a fixed cost. For example, the salary of the manager, whether we produce or whether we're not produce, we still have to pay the salary of the manager. So this will be the fixed cost. What about the second one, the variable cost? This is the costs that are changing by the change of our productions. For example, the electricity, the labors that we use, and etc. And then we have the total cost. The total cost is the summation of the fixed cost and the variable cost. Last but not least, we have the marginal cost. The marginal cost is the difference, yeah, between increasing one production. This is the cost of increasing one production. So let's try to look at the table to see how we calculate each of them. So here we have the output, the output that we produce. For example, here 0 bakso, 1 bakso, 2 bakso, 3 bakso, and etc. And then the variable cost of producing this output. Yeah, and then we have the fixed cost of $10. So $10, whether we produce bakso or we not produce bakso, the fixed cost will be there. Yeah, it is the fixed cost. It will not change. Yeah. So in the short run, so this is the fixed kind of cost that we need to consider. And if we add them up with the variable cost, we're gonna have a total cost. Okay, Mbak Mazaya. So let's continue watching the video.
We have 0 output. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units they can produce. I've also given you the variable cost and the fixed cost producing no output. I want you to copy this chart on your piece of paper and finish off these columns. Calculate the fixed cost, the total cost, and the marginal cost. Pause the video and then do those calculations, and I'll go over the answers. What's the fixed cost of producing 1 unit? Well, it's $10. For 2 units, it's $10. For 3 units, it's $10. Why? Because it's fixed. It doesn't matter how many units produced. You still pay $10 fixed cost. Total cost is the variable plus the fixed cost. So when you produce nothing, you still have a total cost of $10. Remember, that's because you have to pay that fixed cost. For 1 unit, it's $20. For 2 units, it's $27. Then 35, 50, 70, and 120. And it's really that simple. Variable cost plus fixed cost equals total cost. The marginal cost is the change in total cost for producing an additional output. So if the total cost of producing nothing is $10 and the total cost of producing 1 unit is $20, the additional cost of that first unit must be 10. Since the total cost of 2 units is 27, the additional cost of that second unit must be an additional $7. So again, the marginal cost is the change in total cost divided by the change in output. So it's $8, $15, $20, and $50. Now that you can calculate these costs, let's calculate the per unit costs. There's average variable cost, average fixed cost, and average total cost.
Okay, so that was the total cost and the marginal cost. Yeah, Mbak Mazaya. So do you have any question from here?
No.
All right, so the marginal cost is the difference between producing 1 unit to the next one. Yeah, for example, this is 10. This is the total cost of producing 0 unit. And $20 is the total cost of producing 1 unit. So the difference is the marginal cost. Okay. So 27 with 20, what is the difference? $7. So the $7 is the marginal cost. So this is the additional cost of producing 1 more unit. Okay. Okay, so next we're going to look at the perspective of per unit cost. Yeah, per unit cost.
$8, $15, $20, and $50. Now that you can calculate these costs, let's calculate the per unit costs. There's average variable cost, average fixed cost, and average total cost. The average variable cost is the total variable cost divided by the quantity. Average fixed cost is the fixed cost divided by the quantity. And the average total cost is the total cost divided by the quantity. Most of the time when you see these, you're going to see them by the acronym. So A, B, C, A, F, C, and A, T, C. Get used to that. Now let's go see if you can actually use those equations and calculate the average cost curve. I want you to calculate the average total cost of 6 units, the average fixed cost of 2 units, the average variable cost of 4 units, the average total cost of 1 unit, and calculate all 3, the average variable, average fixed, and average total for 5 units. So go back to your paper, number 1 through 7, and make sure to calculate each one of these. Pause the video and I'll go over them. All right, the average total cost of 6 units is $20. That's because the total cost is $120, and we're producing 6 units. So if the total cost is $120 and you produce 6 units, how much did each one cost on average? Well, $20. The average fixed cost of 2 units is $5, right? It's the $10 fixed cost divided by 2 units. That gives us $5. The average variable cost of 4 units is the $40 variable cost, total variable cost, divided by the 4 units we produced. So it's going to be $10. The average total cost of 1 unit is $20. If 1 unit costs a total of $20, then on average, that 1 unit costs $20. Now let's take a step back and find out something you might not have noticed first time around. Notice that the average variable cost plus the average fixed cost equals the average total cost. For example, for 5 units, the average variable cost was $12. The average fixed cost was $2. The average total cost was $14. 12 plus 2 equals 14. That's how it is for every single one of these. The average variable cost plus the average fixed cost equals the average total cost. Actually, this is not that bad. I kind of like cost curves. The next thing you're going to do is going to take all these costs from the chart and you're going to put it on a graph. To learn more about that graph and find out how to use it, you got to watch the next video. If you like.
Okay, so that was the per unit cost. So we have the average variable cost, the average fixed cost, and the combination or the summation between these two costs will give you the average total cost. All right. So it's pretty easy, right, Mazaya? Okay, Mazaya, are you still there? Can you hear my voice? And
Yes, sir.
all right. So next we are going to learn about how we can make the cost curves. Yeah, so these curves. Yeah. So we'll just watch the video. So just you need to remember the table that we have in the first video in order to draw the cost curves. So here it is.
Econ students, this is Mr. Clifford. Welcome to ACDC Econ. In the previous video, I defined the different types of costs: fixed costs, variable costs, total costs, and marginal costs. You used the chart to calculate each one of these. You also calculated the average cost curves: average variable cost, average fixed cost, and average total cost. If you haven't seen that video, make sure to go back because you're going to need that for what we're going to do right now. Because right now, we're going to find out what these cost curves look like on the graph. If you plotted the total cost, you'd come up with a graph just like this. Right here, the horizontal line is fixed cost. And then right here is variable cost. Now, since fixed cost plus variable cost equals total cost, the total cost curve would look like that. You might see this graph on a test, but really it's not as important as the per unit cost curve. I'm talking about marginal cost, average total cost, average variable cost, and average fixed cost. The per unit cost curves look like this based on the calculations we did in the previous video. First is the average fixed cost. Notice how it keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
So this is the average fixed cost, yeah, but Mazaya, if we notice the graph here, if we look at the curve, by increasing our output, by increasing the quantity of productions, we can see that the average variable cost or average fixed cost is getting lower, is getting less. Yeah. So so by increasing the number of production, by increasing the number of output, yeah, the quantity of productions, we can realize that the average fixed cost is decreasing. It's getting slow, it's getting lower. It's getting smaller, okay?
And that's because you're taking the fixed cost, the set amount, and dividing it by larger and larger quantities. So the average fixed cost is going to keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Next up is the marginal cost curve. Marginal cost always goes down and up because the law of diminishing marginal returns. Average variable cost goes down and up, and it hits marginal cost at average variable cost minimum point. The average total cost also goes down and back up, and it hits marginal cost at ATC's minimum. Notice the vertical distance right here is the same as the vertical distance right there. That's because the average fixed cost plus the average variable cost equals the average total cost. Now let's talk about how you're going to actually use this graph. You might get a question on a test that says, how much does the 5th unit cost? To figure that out, just go straight up from 5 units. The graph tells you the marginal cost of producing 5 units is $20. The average total cost of 5 units is 14. The average variable is 12, and the average fixed is 2. Again, remember, the average fixed of 2 plus the average variable of 12 equals the average total of 14. But the best part of this graph is the fact that you can use it to calculate total costs. For example, you know that each one of those 5 units costs $14 on average. Well, how much does 5 units cost in total? What's the total cost of 5 units? Well, it's $70. It's that box right there. That's the total cost. Of that $70, how much is variable and how much is fixed? To figure that out, all you got to do is go up to the average variable cost at 5 units, which is $12. 12 times 5 is 60. So that box right there of $60 is the variable cost of producing 5 units. If the variable cost is 60 and the total cost is 70, then the fixed cost must be 10. That's the average fixed cost of $2 times 5 units gives me $10 of fixed costs. That's the box right there. Yeah, all right. I kind of like this. I'm getting into cost curves. I kind of like it. Yeah, cost curve. Woo! Cost curve, cost curve, cost curve. Calculate the total, variable, and fixed costs. What you're going to find out is that not all 4 of these curves are equally important. The real important ones are marginal cost and average total cost. Those are the ones you're going to be drawing a whole lot. I hope this video helped you.
Okay, so this is how we draw the table that we calculated before, and this is what they look like. Yeah, you see that this is the average fixed cost, the average variable cost, the average total cost, and then we have the marginal cost. Yeah, if we want to look at how much the total cost, we can simply multiply. Like for example, if we wanted to look how much the total cost, the total. If we want to look at how much the variable cost of producing 5 units, then we can multiply 12 by 5. Yeah, so this is in order to know how much the variable cost need to produce 5 units. And if we want to look at how much total cost, we just multiply 14 by 5. Then we're gonna have 70. 70 is the total cost of producing 5 units. So I think this is a easy explanation. Is there any question, Mbak Mazaya, before we move to the most important part of this video, the part number 3?
No.
Okay, so now we're gonna analyze about the marginal cost and average total cost. Okay.
Hi, econ students. This is Mr. Clifford. Welcome to ACDC Econ. Right now, we're still looking at cost curve. Yeah. Oh, I think that joke's getting old. In the previous video, I showed you the per unit cost curves. We've got average fixed cost, average variable cost, average total cost, and marginal cost. By now, you should be able to use that graph to calculate the total cost at any given quantity. So as the quantity increases, the box of total cost is going to look like that. In this video, I'm going to explain why these cost curves look the way they do. Why does marginal cost go down and up? And why ATC goes down, hit a minimum, and then go back up. First, let's start with marginal cost. Take a look right here. On the very top, you have the graph you saw earlier in this unit. This is the marginal product curve. As you hire more inputs, like workers, the additional output produced by those workers is going to go up and eventually start going down because of the law of diminishing marginal returns. As workers specialize, the additional output they produce goes up and up and up. But because of fixed resources, the additional output produced by these workers will eventually start to fall, causing the marginal product to go down. It turns out that's the reason why the marginal cost is U-shaped. Look down here. This is the number of units produced and the cost of those units. As you produce more units, the additional cost of each additional unit begins to fall. That's because those units are produced by workers that are specializing and producing more additional output. So the additional cost of those units is falling. But as each worker produces less and less additional output, the additional cost of those units can start going up and up. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Next up, why does the average total cost
Okay,
less
so
and
do you
less
know?
additional output?
Okay, so Mbak Mazaya, do you understand why the marginal cost is having a U shape, while the marginal production is having the reflected U shape, the inverse U shape? Yeah. So you remember about the story of for example, this is a bakso factory. Yeah, and you have workers working in this bakso factory. If you add more input to increase the production while your factory stay the same, I mean, there is no expansion of the factory, the worker will not be able to produce bakso because they will be very crowded, so they cannot do anything. So with the fixed input of factory, increasing the input will lead to increasing the input here, increasing the labor will lead to an increase of production until a certain point. And then it start to decrease here, right? Because when you add more labor to the factory, they will have no space to produce. And and by doing this, yeah, actually, yeah, the cost of hiring the labor and producing the bakso, yeah, at the beginning stage will have a decreasing trend, and then after it reach its maximum point, yeah, it will start to increase, yeah, the cost, because as you hire more worker in the factory, as we hire more worker in the factory, the cost of getting these laborers, their salary, yeah, their wages will also increase, yeah. So that's why, yeah, the marginal cost look a U-shape here, yeah. Okay, do you understand from this point, but Mazaya, why do we have a reflecting shape between the marginal production and marginal cost, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes.
No?
I understand.
Yeah, okay. Is there any question here before we move? All right, no question, yeah? Okay, so let's continue, yeah?
Additional cost of those units can start going up and up. Okay, I got it. I got it. Next up, why does the average total cost go down, hit a minimum, and then go back up? This is because the relationship between marginal and average. If the marginal cost is below the average total cost, it's going to pull the average total cost down. When the marginal cost goes above the average total cost, it's going to pull the average total cost back up. Let me give you an example to help you understand the idea. Let's say there's some people in a room and the average weight is 150 pounds. Let's say that the next person who walks in the room, the marginal person, weighs 100 pounds. What's that going to do to the average? Well, when the marginal is below the average, it's going to pull the average down. Let's say the next person who walks in the room is only 50 pounds. Well, again, the marginal is less than the average, so it's going to pull the average down. Now, let's say the next person who walks in the room is 60 pounds. Notice 60 pounds is higher than 50. So the marginal weight is actually going up, but the average weight is still going to fall because 60 is less than the average. As long as the marginal is less than the average, it's going to keep pulling the average down. Now, when the next person who walks in the room weighs 300 pounds up here, that's going to pull the average right back up. And it's the same thing with cost curves. When the additional cost is below the average, it pulls the average down. So that's why the average total cost curve goes down and up. But it's also the reason right there is the minimum point of the ATC curve. Now, this also applies to the average variable cost. It too gets pulled down when the marginal is below and pulled up when the marginal is above. So when it comes to AP test, whenever you draw marginal and average, make sure you have the average hit a minimum and then go right back up. Now, I hope this video helped you out. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment below. Also, take a look at the next video and check out my series. Comes the AP test.
Okay, so here, why the marginal, why the average total cost and average variable cost looks like this? So when the marginal cost is having a less, yeah, having less than the average total cost, the average total cost curve is having a decreasing trend. Okay, Mbak Mazaya? But when the marginal cost is starting to be higher than the average total cost, then it will brings the average total cost to have an increasing trend. Yeah, so the reflecting point is right here, right here. So once it touched the marginal cost, when the marginal cost is higher than the average total cost, we can see that the slope here is starting to increase. Okay. Okay, do you understand here, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes.
All right.
Whenever you draw marginal and average, make sure you have the average hit a minimum and then go right back up. Now, I hope this video helped you out. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment below. Also, take a look at the next video and check out my series.
Okay, okay, next, in the next video or in the next in week 7, yeah, here this is week 6, okay, Islamic cost theory. So in the next video, in the next week, yeah, I will make the video, I will upload the course material, I will try to, you know, like bring the video to understand about the supply curve. So when we want to learn the supply curve, we need to look at the competitive market curves. Okay, so from now, we just need to understand about the short run cost and about the long run cost. Yeah. So let's take a look at the economies of scale and the long run curve.
Jacob Clifford, welcome to ACDC Econ. What do the Twilight movies, the Harry Potter movies, and the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy have in common? Well, they're all based on books, right? So they all had economies of scale. Before we jump into it, keep in mind that economists differentiate between the short run and the long run. In the short run, at least one input or resource in the production process is fixed. I made a video about it, check it out. In this video, I'm going to talk about production in the long run, when all resources are variable. Let's start by looking at what happens to output as a company adds more and more resources. If a firm were to double its inputs, there's only three possible things that could happen to their output. Their output could more than double, it could double, or it could less than double. That's the idea of returns to scale. If output more than doubles, then a firm is experiencing increasing returns to scale because getting bigger is better. This happens because they can use mass production techniques that smaller firms can't. Now, if the output doubles, then that company has constant returns to scale. So they've kind of maxed out on the gains of getting bigger. And if that output less than doubles, then they're experiencing decreasing returns to scale, and they're just too big. So returns to scale show what happens to production in the long run, but what happens to cost? Well, have you ever seen the TV show How It's Made? It shows how companies produce stuff, and it's absolutely fascinating. Think of two bread companies, with one producing bread like this, and the other one producing bread like this. Now, here's the question. Which one of these two companies had higher costs? Obviously this one. That's millions of dollars of equipment they're using to produce the bread. So their total cost of producing are way higher. But what about their average cost of producing each loaf of bread? It's way lower. And that's the idea of economies of scale. The long run average costs fall as more output is produced. Economies of scale is the idea that getting bigger is cheaper. It happens because of increasing returns of scale and other cost-saving measures. Companies that are producing at a larger scale can afford super productive machines and also buy resources in bulk. Again, the total cost might be a lot higher, but the average cost is lower. And that brings us back to those movies. Several of the Twilight and Harry Potter movies and all the Lord of the Rings movies were shot at the same time. The total cost of producing 3 movies is a lot more expensive than just producing one. But if you produce them all at the same time, the average cost is going to fall. When they made The Lord of the Rings, they didn't have to ship their cast and crew to New Zealand over and over and over again. So producing multiple movies all at once meant that they had economies of scale. But often costs don't keep falling and falling in the long run. Like production, they often level off, and this is called constant returns to scale. So when you're producing bread, there's just no way to get your cost below a certain amount per loaf. And eventually, it's possible for the average cost to start going up as more is produced. And that's called diseconomies of scale. In that situation, a company becomes so big and is producing so much that they have to hire extra managers, and they have to add a cafeteria to their factory, so their average costs start going up. Now, you might be thinking that a firm wants to produce where they have the lowest long-run average cost, but it's not that simple. The amount a firm should produce doesn't just look at cost. It also looks at consumer demand. I mean, think of your local pizza restaurant. The goal isn't to minimize their costs, make as much pizza as possible. Their goal is to maximize profit. Think about it. They could have advanced pizza making robots that do all the work, but they don't sell enough pizza to make it worth it. The point is, concepts like economies of scale are ideas that help producers make decisions. They don't tell producers exactly how much to make, because in real life, one size doesn't fit all. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Hey, thanks for watching my econ video.
Okay, so Mbak Mazaya, in the long run, we're going to learn about, or we're going to have about the, what do you call it, economies of scale. Yeah, so economics of scale is the condition where our average total cost is starting to decrease until it reach a certain point when it goes constant. Yeah, so you remember we have a company that make bread. Yeah, so if we increase more worker, yeah, the average total cost will be lower because you can produce more. But if you increase more and more, and you don't expand the factory, and they are very crowded, so that they can produce, yeah, this is where the average total cost is starting to increase. Yeah, because by increasing the number of worker without expanding the company, without expanding the factory, yeah, it will increase the average total cost, and our production will be lower because it will be very crowded and no space for productions. So that's why if for a certain point, yeah, the average total cost is started to increase. This is where we call these economies of scale. Okay, so do you understand here, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. All right, so this is what about the cost analysis. So here we have the short term. Yeah. So this is what we will review about what we watch in the video. Okay. So the characteristic. Okay. Yeah. This is what we like review. Yeah. So if you remember here, this is the fixed cost. Yeah. And this is the variable cost, and this is the total cost. Yeah, remember the video that we showed you before. Yeah, and 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 this will later on, yeah, draw the supply curve. Yeah, we will learn about the supply curve next week. So for now, just try to remember that the supply curve is derived from the calculation of cost. Yeah, so the company will supply their product based on their cost of productions. Next week we're going to learn about the supply curve. I will make the video and I will inform you that I have uploaded the video in the Aula Hebat. Okay, Mbak Mazaya?
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to learn about the impact of interest versus profit sharing system in cost analysis. So the characteristic of the interest system in the analysis of production costs is that the interest costs that must be paid by producers are fixed. So the interest costs are part of the fixed cost. So when you borrow the money for productions, yeah, you know that you will have to pay the interest rate, and this interest rate is actually part of the fixed cost. Yeah, so uh so the existence of interest rate will increase total cost. Yeah, so this is the total cost. Yeah, so wait, let me so this is like this. So total cost become total cost with interest. Yeah, so I will just try to write here. Total cost, yeah, become total cost with interest. Okay, so in the interest system, yeah, in the conventional economy system, yeah, the interest rate that we get from having a loan to build the business will actually increase our total cost. Yeah, so we have total cost become the total cost with interest. Okay, so in an interest system that change the total cost curve, total cost shift to the upper left, while in the profit sharing system, total revenue rotates clockwise from the zero as the axis of rotation. The greater the profit sharing ratio given to investor, extreme limit 0 to 100, the total revenue curve is getting closer to the horizontal x-axis. So this is something that we can try to understand here. Yeah, so look at here, Mazaya. This is the break-even point. So the break-even point is where total revenue intersect with the total cost. Okay, so this is the total cost. But what happened? We have an increase of fixed cost. Why? Because the fixed cost in conventional economies, they have an interest. So that's why they have an increase in the fixed cost. So if we look here, an increase in fixed cost because of the interest will increase total cost with interest. So the break-even point will move from this point here at the below to this point. So the break-even point will be higher because we have an increase of interest, an increase of total cost because of the interest. So the story goes like this. Yeah. This is the initial fixed cost, Mbak Mazaya. And if we use an interest, so our fixed cost will increase. This will make the fixed cost curve shift to up. Yeah, shift upward. Okay, so we have a new fixed cost with interest here. Yeah, so when we have the total revenue, yeah, this green curve, green line, yeah, we know that the total revenue meets the total cost will give us the break-even point. So this is the break-even point when with no, yeah, when fixed cost, no interest. Yeah, this is the normal break-even point. But when we add the interest, the break-even point will be higher. You see here? You see here? The break-even point will be higher. So meaning that if we use, all right, so if we use the interest rate, okay, the fixed cost will be higher and the break-even point will be higher. It means that if you use interest, your profit will be decreased. Okay, but Mazaya, do you understand from here, from this point? You there, Mbak Mazaya? Mbak Mazaya, can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear.
Yes. So do you understand about this point?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. Okay. So I will try to repeat again. Yeah. So the initial fixed cost is here. Yeah. This is the initial fixed cost. And when we use interest in our business, our fixed cost will be higher in this point. Yeah, this will make our fixed cost higher. And when we have the total revenue in green color, yeah, so when the total revenue meet total cost, it will be the break-even point. And the break-even point of interest will be higher than the break-even point with no interest. Yeah, so this is the curve that explain, yeah, how the fixed cost with and without the interest. All right, so all right, so this is what it looks like where we have the total revenue, yeah, without revenue sharing and with revenue sharing. Yeah, if we look here, the break-even point, yeah, of the uh of the break-even point without revenue sharing, yeah, will be lower than those break-even point with revenue sharing. Yeah, but we need to remember that our quantity sold with the revenue sharing system will be also higher. Okay, so the more inclined towards the x-axis, yeah, the more profit share to the investors, yeah, the break-even point will be higher. But if the more profit sharing is shared for the mudarib, the managers, yeah, so we can say that we are having a lower break-even point. Okay. Okay, do you understand about this point, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes.
Okay. So here let's try to understand. In both system, we get the quantity, yeah, QI is bigger than Q, and Q revenue sharing is bigger than, so this is quantity with interest and quantity with revenue sharing. Whether QI is higher than quantity revenue sharing or quantity interest is less than quantity revenue sharing, or it is equal, is determined by the amount of interest compared to how much the profit sharing ratio is. The difference lies in the cost. QI is caused by the increase in total cost. So when we have an in interest system, the increase in quantity that are caused by the interest system is due to an increase in total cost. However, look at this. If we use revenue sharing system, the increase in quantity is due to an increase in total revenue. So we have a different philosophy here. So here we say that the quantity increase, yeah, in the interest rate system is due to the increase in total cost, yeah, but the quantity increase in the revenue sharing system is due to the increase in total revenue. Which one do you prefer? Yeah, are you prefer an increase in total cost or an increase in total revenue? For me, I would like to have an increase in total revenue than total cost. Okay, so do you understand the different philosophy between interest rate system and the profit loss sharing system, Mbak Mazaya? So if we look at the quantity increase here, look here. Yeah. This is the quantity increase. But the quantity increase is due to the higher fixed cost, which make the higher total cost. But in this point, in this line, the quantity increase from Q to Q revenue sharing is due to an increase in total revenue. Yeah, so we have an increase in total revenue, which make, yeah, the quantity increase from Q to QRS. Okay. All right. So do you understand here, Mbak Mazaya?
Yes.
Okay. In both system, the different lines, yeah, this is, yeah, in both system, we get, yeah, the quantity of interest is bigger than the prior quantity, and the quantity of revenue sharing is also greater than the quantity initial. Yeah, determined by the amount of interest compared to how much the profit sharing ratio is. The difference lies in the cost. Quantity is an increase in total cost, and yeah, this is okay. So this is the revenue sharing versus profit sharing. Okay. So next we're going to learn about the revenue sharing versus profit sharing. Yeah. So what does it mean? Revenue is the sale that we have, total sales. Yeah. Total sales minus total cost. Yeah, this is we're going to have the revenue. But profit is after deducting with the total cost and the tax. So now we're going to look at whether total revenue sharing or total profit sharing give us highest benefit. Okay. Okay. So the second difference between revenue sharing and profit sharing is how far the total revenue rotates. In revenue sharing, total revenue rotates until it approaches the x-axis horizontal line. In profit sharing, the total revenue rotates in the crocodile mode. Total revenue and total cost are areas that show the amount of profit. Yeah, total revenue will not cross the total cost because in this area, there is no more profit to be distributed. Okay, so let's try to look at the which one give us the more benefit. So here, So this is the fixed cost. Yeah. This is the total cost. Total cost. We have the fixed cost. We have fixed cost with interest, and we have total cost with interest. We have total revenue here. Total revenue with profit sharing. This is without profit sharing. This is total revenue with profit sharing, and total revenue with revenue sharing. Yeah. If we look at here, if we use a system of total revenue sharing, the line is getting closer to the x-axis. While if we use the profit sharing, it will be in the crocodile mode. So this is the crocodile mode. Yeah, this is the crocodile mode. It's look like the crocodile mouth. Yeah. So the total revenue with profit sharing will be around the crocodile mode, and it will not exceed below the total cost. So it will move from here to here, from this area. Okay, from the crocodile mouth area. All right. So this is the different simulation, whether if we have total revenue without profit sharing, total revenue with profit sharing, and total revenue with revenue sharing. This is how it looks if we draw the difference curve. And look at here. Look at here. This is the quantity with interest. We look at the quantity with revenue sharing is higher. Yeah, and this is the quantity with profit sharing is lower than the quantity of the interest. Okay. And now we will learn about the efficiency. Yeah. So production efficiency and economies of scale. An economic system is efficient when. So this is the law of efficiency, Mbak Mazaya. So an economic system is efficient when we can minimize the cost to produce the same number of output, or we can maximize the production with the same amount of cost. So reducing the cost to produce the same level of output, or we maximize the production with the same level of cost. So this is the concept of efficiency and economies of scale. This is what happened if we try to implement the first law, which is to minimize the cost in order to produce the same quantity of output. Yeah. So here if we look at here, yeah, Pak Mazaya. So this is the cost with interest. Yeah. Look here, this is higher. And this is the cost with revenue sharing or profit sharing. Yeah. If we look at this, the cost with revenue sharing or profit sharing is lower than the cost of interest. Yeah. So if we assume that we are producing the same output, yeah, we are producing the same output, we can see that the cost, yeah, with interest system is higher than the cost of revenue sharing or profit sharing. Yeah, meaning that at the same level of output, yeah, the revenue sharing and profit sharing is having less cost than the interest, meaning that the revenue sharing and profit sharing system is more efficient if we compare to the cost with interest. Okay, can you see the graph here? Yeah, so the profit sharing and revenue sharing is efficient. Yeah, is efficient because we can minimize the cost. We can minimize the cost, yeah, to produce the same quantity of output. Okay, look, so the blue line here, the blue line is the fixed cost and the total cost of producing with revenue sharing or profit sharing, while the red line is uh, is the fixed cost and the total cost with the interest rate sharing, with the interest rate system. Okay, and it turns out that the interest rate system is having higher cost than the revenue sharing and profit sharing, meaning that revenue sharing and profit sharing is more efficient than the interest system. Okay. What about the second law of efficiency? The second law of efficiency is to maximize the production without cost increase or change. So we're gonna put the cost at the same level. Yeah. Which one is giving us higher quantity of output? Yeah. So this is the blue line is the interest system, and the black line is the revenue and profit sharing system. And if we look at the curves here, we can see that the quantity produced with the interest system is lower. Yeah, it's lower than the quantity produced with the revenue sharing or profit sharing system, meaning that profit sharing and revenue sharing system can produce higher output with the same level of cost. Okay, do you understand here, Mbak Mazaya, the concept of efficiency?
Yes.
All right. So this is what we draw the economies of scale. Remember the economies of scale that we learned before? Okay. So this is the total revenue, the quantity of interest system, quantity of profit sharing system, the quantity of revenue system, yeah, total revenue, profit sharing system. So this is the total cost of interest and the total cost without the interest, yeah. This is the fixed cost, yeah. So we can in this case we can conclude, we can wrap up that the profit sharing and revenue sharing system, it's more profitable, more efficient, it produce higher quantity, yeah, and of course the profit sharing and the revenue sharing system is more beneficial than the quantity of interest. Okay. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Okay, so do you have any question here, Mbak Mazaya?
No questions.
No question. All right. So I think that's all, yeah, for week 6. Yeah. So please, we have an assignment here. You need to watch these four videos and then make a review about what you have learned in the topic of Islamic cost theory. And then tomorrow I will post the week 7, which is about the supply theory, and I will try to put some videos and I will try to make videos to explain about the supply theory. Okay, I will try to upload this lecture also in the aula, so you can review about the things that we have discussed today. All right, thank you so much for your attention, Mbak Mazaya. Can we close our class for today?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you so much. So I will see you again next time. I will try to upload, yeah, the week 7 theory of supply and its course materials and videos, inshallah, tomorrow. And I want you to learn to watch the video, to read the PowerPoint slides, to read the books, yeah, and any other references to enrich your understanding with Islamic microeconomics. Thank you. I will see you again next time. Let us close by reciting Kafaratul Majlis. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.